Normal aging, we forget things every now and then. We might miss an appointment or miss paying a bill because we're so stressed out or we're just not focused on what we need to do. That's normal. But if we're constantly doing those things, missing bills, getting into financial trouble, falling for scams, like giving someone a large amount of my money, that's a pretty clear warning sign something's not right. If the person's getting lost in familiar places, so not necessarily going somewhere new, but if I get in the car to go around to the corner store, which I've done for the past 30 years, and now all of a sudden I'm getting lost doing that, not normal. Could be something going on. Misplacing things, we all do that, but again, doing it to the point where it's interfering, with how I live my life. Putting things, my car keys in the oven or the freezer, not throwing away food. And so my refrigerator is full of food that's gone bad. A person can probably cover really well for a while, like talking to a family member on the phone for 30 minutes once a week, but the family comes to visit and they stay there and they find all these things like, oh wow, yeah, something's going on with mom. Because this is very different than how she is normally. If a person's talking about being worried about their memory, that probably is an indicator things are probably okay because they're aware of it. But noticing when a person starts to pull away from things that they're typically involved in, being a part of groups, going to being a part of clubs, or leading this group, or doing the bake sale, things that they've always done, and now they're not doing so much anymore. Could be an indicator something's going on. Maybe hearing things about having some fender benders. Maybe there's a couple more dents in the car that wasn't there last week, or even them just talking about it. Not so much that it was their fault, but there's never any good drivers around here. That could also typically be a warning sign. Personality changes, so very quick to anger, being more and more emotional. Certainly that could also be a sign of depression, so we have to be very aware of that and not confuse dementia with depression because they can mimic each other. But those quick mood changes and personality changes could also be warning signs as well. Communication is really important, and it's important to understand that their comprehension may be changing. They're really good at maybe acting like they understand, and we typically want to provide information at the rate that we're getting that feedback. Somebody's nodding their head and they're agreeing, and so we continue moving forward providing that information. The challenge is all that may not be getting in. I'm just kind of being pleasant and agreeing with you, right? Because I want to cover that, that I don't understand. So slowing down is really key. Not slowing down to the point that we're, very obvious about it, but sharing one concept at a time. Slowing down, making sure that they're getting what we're saying before we move on to the next thing. When we are talking with them, making sure that we're making eye contact. So if we're getting up and moving around the room as we're still talking to them, we're probably not going to do a good job of conveying that information. Making sure we're facing them in the front, eye contact, slowing down on our delivery of even our speech, right? And making sure we're enunciating our words. All those things can be very helpful when we're communicating with somebody with dementia. So if I'm trying to communicate with you and share information, and there's some overhead music that's loud, maybe there's some conversations happening over here, maybe there's a TV on it could be low, but there's visual images happening, it's very, very distracting for that person. And so what's gonna happen is I'm probably not gonna get what you're giving to me. And so it's really important to try and minimize those distractions. If I need to have a really important conversation with you, taking you to a place that's quiet, where there isn't all those things going on, where we can close the door or we can be in an area that all those things aren't going on, is going to be super helpful. People living with dementia are doing the best they can. They have this brain that's changing, and a lot of times with dementia, well, all the time pretty much, we don't have a lot of visual cues if there's something wrong, right? Typically it isn't till the end of this disease that people look sick, Right, I mean, other diseases, you know, there's some visual cues that we get that we look at the person and, oh, they're sick, but not with dementia. And so what that means is, you know, we expect them to still, you know, be able to communicate and understand and do the things that, you know, that we expect. When in reality, their brain's changing, and that's not allowing them to still be able to do the things that they used to do. And so I think just really, you know, trying to educate ourselves about that and understand, okay, I may have to approach this person a little differently. Not that I'm going to necessarily treat them differently, but in order to successfully connect with them, I may have to, you know, use my brain that's intact to help them who, you know, has the brain that's not working the way it's supposed to.